what led you to come up with it?
When I was first talking about it, I used to frame the problem as user story hell. You're in the Badlands and you don't know where you're heading, you don't know where the destination is, and there's all these sort of faceless, homogenous user stories that all look the same and they're all there, and as soon as you look at one, it divides and multiplies like this horrible virus. Death by user stories is what I used to call my talk. When we talk about user stories, we get really confused. Is it really a story? Or is it a task? Or is it an example? Or is it an output? So is it an outcome? Like, is it started as an outcome? And then you write it as some outputs. And then you're writing about steps in the process. And then you split it through the acceptance criteria and it becomes about scenarios. Why don't we get rid of that language and just talk about these building blocks as part of our mental journey as we make sense of it? And then we actually know what we're discussing.
I've absolutely been in that team that's having exactly that problem.
Because where's the detail captured, right? So in the olden days, we had these big, horrible 896 page functional specifications. But on page 503, and you were in section 4.2.6a.11, and you've got some sequence diagram or something like that, you could go up all of the chapters and know what that was about because of how the document was organized. You knew when you were writing something about a detailed scenario what level of detail you were working at. And you used to do a requirements document at a high level, and then a functional specification more detailed, and then a design specification, and then a detailed design, and then that would go down into pseudocode. And that was a horrible amount of upfront analysis, but you knew what level of detail you were working at. So you'd know when something went from being a user need, that analysis, you break it down, and then you put it back together, the synthesis, into a specification. And it was clear which one's which. But when you're dealing with user stories, people are completely confused. And so it does this journey. It starts as a user need and then it morphs and changes and gets acceptance criteria added to it. It only becomes a specification when it's got that detailed implementation stuff. Rather that be captured in a document or even digitally, it's in Jira in 600 different conversations.
I've just built up a really great picture of exactly why some of my developers hated Scrum so much. But I've never worked in that world, so I didn't know that at all. How things work. I'm nodding along, but I've not experienced that myself.
If you think about design thinking and you think about analysis, right? So you're taking your problem and you're opening it up into all the bits, and then you take all those bits, you make sense of it, and you turn it into synthesis, which is the solution space, right? And so that used to be really clear, that journey. And now it's not, it's asteroids. It's whoa, 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 in and out, in and out, in and out. And so you don't know often whether you're in the problem space or the solution space. Nobody knows.
And that's how the developers feel. They feel like it's just asteroids.
And so the whole idea of Agile and user stories was to have smaller bits of work. It's a really good idea to have smaller bits of work because then we can get stuff live earlier and then we can adapt to change and we can collaborate on it and we haven't got too much cognitive load. I mean, that makes lots of sense. But it only works if you know that you're working on the most important thing. So if you just blindly blow up all the asteroids and you have a whole team writing user stories on their own, you're doing the same upfront analysis as you would have been doing on a waterfall project. Exactly the same, only with less structure, less detail, shoddy documentation, and no structure or hierarchy. And that's what most teams are doing.
And also crying developers